So I'm going to start getting into code, and what you're going to do is think about like what would you do if you were asked to sort of like identify clothing. So instead of doing any human activity, it's about the things we wear, the things we carry with us. Um, yeah, and basically identifying these items. So typically what people would do now, if you did have enough machine learning expertise, is you would go and pick a well-known library that's out there, like a TensorFlow with Keras or a PyTorch or scikit-learn. You basically pick a library to help you with this. So this one is an example from this is a TensorFlow tutorial that we have. So you can go check it out at the link here. And it uses Keras, which is a higher level library that sits on top of TensorFlow to make TensorFlow a little bit more digestible for people. But this is a well-known data set, and it's basically got 70,000 black, white, grayscale images, 28 by 28 pixels each. So there's a total of 70K, 60,000 are used to do the training, 10,000 are used to validate the model. And there's 10 categories of clothing, so different types of shoes, different types of tops, different types of bottoms. And you can just go line by line into this and learn how to use TensorFlow and do the training. It's great because it leads you through it, line by line, but you may not know what's in there. Again, if you don't have the mathematical or statistical background, you can certainly run the Jupyter notebook that it runs on. And you can just have the code running and you can go and make predictions. You can change variables. It's great, right? So you may not be able to come up with something like that by yourself from scratch, but at least you'll have an idea of the process of training a model and then using it. Okay, so that's a really good tutorial. But not everybody, again, is ready for TensorFlow or any of these open source libraries. You can jump straight in. So this is like, once you're comfortable with machine learning and you're ready to go and build and train your own models, you will actually go and do a tutorial like this or multiple tutorials like this to actually go and do it, okay? And that, again, sort of involves taking a data set, looking at it carefully. Here's a 28 by 28 pixel of a shoe. And then what would happen is, the Python code, if you don't know Python, just pretend it's pseudocode. It's going to be very similar in other languages. So you'll import the data model, you'll import the training images as well as the labels. So the labels is, the image is, this is well, I guess it's up here, this is a shoe. All right, and the label is, I'm just going to label it as 09 is the shoe category. And then for shirt, that's going to be a different category. So maybe that's 1, a sweater, maybe number 2 or whatnot. Okay, and then the same thing applies for test images and test labels. So everything is identified. This is a shoe, and we actually say it's a shoe. Okay, so this is an example of what is called supervised learning. And it's called that because you're actually, a teacher is there to tell you, hey, this is a shoe, by the way. There's also another type of machine learning model where it's unsupervised training, where you're not told it's a shoe, right? So I'll kind of like mention that a little bit later on, but just to give you an idea, it's a one model that's pretty popular is a supervised learning. And then it turns out that this is a boot type, and then you can have it in multiple languages as well too. So that's that. And then so we have a whole data set, and then what happens is you import the data set, you start to pre-process the data, and then you start building up the models, you set up the layers, you compile it, so it just gets trained with all 60,000 images, and then you test it with the test data set, and then you can go and find out, hey, is this a shoe? If it's number 9, then it's probably a shoe. So if you look up, you can't really see the slide that well, but this is on number 9, it's a shoe. This is a sweater, so it's number 2. These are a pair of pants, it's number 1. Here's another pair of pants, that's also number 1. So everyone's gonna fall in line. So all the predictions are falling in line with the training set that you gave. And then also some things may or may not be shoes. Like this one is actually incorrect. It actually identifies this as a shoe, but it's only 57% sure it's a shoe, right? So it may be something else, like maybe it's a sandal. It's so close to looking like a sandal that some of it has an intuition that it may be a sandal as well too. So anyway, so this is an idea of how machine learning works once you're in the inference phase.